The date is August 21st, 2017, and the war is going poorly for NATO. The Russians have broken through to the south of Kiev and are pouring units into the depths of NATO's rear. Command one such unit, 3rd Battalion of the 32nd Motor Rifles. The lead elements of this unit are now approaching their objective. Presently available to me are the lead elements of my battle group, the battalion scouts and a reinforced rifle platoon. Their task is to push forward, try and establish observation on the city, and secure any high ground that may pose a threat to the MSR. The vanguard of my battalion will shortly be joined by the lead company, which is reinforced with a tank platoon, as is usual with the Russian forces. The battle area has a large water obstacle and several bridges that would serve as choke points. However, the stream is fordable in almost every place. The main obstacle to crossing the river for vehicular traffic is the soggy ground. I envision two possible courses of action, depending on the strength of the enemy's anti-tank defenses. The first is a dismounted attack across the swollen stream. The second is a mounted assault towards bridges, with a supporting attack by the lead elements. The scout platoon advances down the MSR and begins to approach the high ground. Nothing suggested is occupied, and they take no fire. A foot patrol, however, will be dispatched to confirm if this is true or not. Meanwhile, the reinforced platoon's weapons teams move to establish overwatch on the city. These will cover the MTLBs that will soon cross the river. The tree line is thick, offers good cover, and hopefully better concealment. It also provides good lines of sight into a broad part of the city. The scout platoon is fording their water obstacle and are preparing to snoop the high ground on foot. Attempting to remain inconspicuous, the weapons teams crawl the last few meters to the edge of the tree line. There, they rapidly set up their weapons and await the order to fire. Using a convenient gully to dismount unseen near the high ground, a dismounted patrol is dispatched, and it is swiftly able to confirm that the hill is unoccupied. Automatic grenade launchers will soon join this position, reinforcing the observation post and allowing it to rapidly become a base of fire if need be. Perhaps sensing something is afoot, enemy artillery begins to range in on the weapons team's location. The MTLBs carrying the rest of the platoon move forward to their jump-off positions regardless. As they move to their final jump-off positions in a woodlot, one of the MTLBs, being overexposed, is struck by an ATGM. This is a costly early mistake, and all the dismounts have made casualties. My own artillery now begins to land, and this will cover the dangerous cross-river dash. The buildings being shelled will serve either as a jump-off point for a continued attack by this rifle platoon, now less a squad, or as a support by fire position. With fortuitous timing, the follow-on rifle company, tank platoon in tow, begins to arrive just as my shaping attacks begin. It will, however, take some time to iron out the traffic difficulties inherent with such a packed formation arriving. The observation post has not been idle either, and the scouts posted there have reported movement of enemy infantry on rooftops and a keyholed BTR-70. The info will have made its way through the battalion group net well before the main effort is launched. With everything nearly in position, the first real aggressive moves of the battle begin, as fire is placed on several prominent buildings by the weapons teams. Frustratingly, my enemy maintains his fire discipline. As he declines to engage my weapons, I gather no real information about his defenses. The scout OP is more productive. BTR-70s are reported as seen being driven westwards out of town. I'm not exactly sure what to make of this, however. A forward observer sets up a second observation post in what I believe is meant to be a water tower. Just below him, the assault company has formed up. It is centrally located and can easily execute either of the templated courses of action. The enemy's lack of response to the weapons teams allows the rifle platoon's surviving MTLVs to make the dangerous cross-river dash without further loss. The scouts have remounted and are attempting to seal the western exits to the city. A group of apartment buildings just opposite the urban area is their goal. First, however, they engage the previously spotted BTR. Using the tall, multi-story buildings as reference points, a 6-tube 120mm barrage is arranged to prepare the main effort. The attempt by the scouts to get behind the objective only earns me another destroyed MTLB. Surviving dismounts quickly tumble out of their tracks and attempt to engage the offending enemy. However, they take fire from the city, are caught in enfilade, and are forced to break contact under the cover of smoke.
Разрыв вижу. Пристрелка. Принято.
On the opposite side of the objective, a firefight rapidly develops as more and more enemy positions unmask in the struggle for fire superiority.
Двигаться! Укрытие!
With help from the fragile but still potent MTLBs, the enemy fire begins to slacken considerably. Eventually, most of the enemy wisely call it quits and begin to pull back, covered by their machine guns. This suggests that this is an orderly withdrawal and not a panic-induced rout. The firefight is definitely a notable success. Several anti-tank teams are swept from the rooftops. The Hornet's nest has been kicked, with the knowledge that the wooded hillock, which is by the smoke to the left edge of this screen, has at least one ATGM that can fire on the bridge. I've elected to go for the first course of action. The attack will be dismounted and supported by armor. My plan is to break into the suburbs, if for no other reason than the fact enemy weapons teams were killed or compelled to retreat from this part of the city already. After that, a push to the center to roll the enemy out of town is the obvious course to continue the attack. With the barrage falling, the assault company deploys.
Пристрелка. Принято.
The T-72s soon add their direct fire to the mix, as the infantry dismount in a copse of trees just behind them.
Ребята, внимание! За мной!
Exchange is not one-sided, as my opponent reminds me he has a voice in the matter as well. Scratch 1 T-72. The infantry begin their advance, and the covering fire is intensified.
Огонь прекращен. Огонь прекращен.
The lack of enemy small arms fire is beginning to become disconcerting. My own infantry are filtering up any scrap of cover available, and yet they take no fire. Indeed, the only activity at this point is enemy ATGMs nonchalantly displacing. They're able to escape without taking any casualties either. Foolishly believing that the coast is clear, I begin to fan out a bit earlier than planned. Enemy fire begins almost immediately in response to this. It's sporadic at first, but it rapidly intensifies. Opposite of the main effort, the independent platoon starts to push out of their buildings and towards the objective. Using the smoke generators to frustrate any enemy ATGMs, my tanks prepare to move up to the infantry. From the riverbank, I'm hoping the tanks will be better positioned to help cover my men as they ford the river.
Прекращаем огонь. Пока не оставим. Принято. Держи огонь.
The smoke generators continue to be put to good use, flinging smoke onto the exposed bank. Normally it's a bad idea to advance through smoke like this, but the opposite bank is actually in dead ground thanks to a raised wall, so I decide to break this little rule.
Еда.
First men have finished wading across the river, unscathed, and are forming up along the raised wall. The armor soon follows, risking immobilization in the soft ground. My opponent has begun fighting from ground floors, and my lead units soon begin exchanging fire with enemy infantry. It appears that the enemy have caught their breath. BTR and RPG fire is intense, but it cannot stop the constant stream of men flowing into the city.
Корректируйте огонь.
The bulk of my assault company is now across the river. Despite my enemy clinging to positions tenaciously, things appear to be going my way. The goal now is to break the city into manageable, platoon-sized chunks and drive the defenders towards the west. fight is intense, but goes my way almost invariably. Failed platoon of the assault company has crossed the river and is now moving up to its platoon objective. Riflemen aren't the only threat. RPGs are still game, and make several attempts at my tanks. These attacks tend to be suicidal, however, and draw furious return fire. Sheer fire superiority is cutting what would otherwise be organized resistance at the knees. Under this immense pressure, resistance inexorably collapses. Nasty surprises remain, however, and closer to the city center, the enemy still has a stomach for the fight. With the clock running down, impatience inevitably creeps in. Mistakes are made as a result, and in a vicious cycle, these last-minute frustrations lead to even more haste and more avoidable losses. This hurry costs me another MTOB from the scout platoon, and even more embarrassingly, a second T-72. Despite these last-minute frustrations, we're able to clear the suburbs and secure the town center, accomplishing the majority of our objectives. The fight may as well serve as a cross-section on conventional conflicts. Despite the small size of the forces involved, the city is a smoking, heaping ruin in many places. Munition expenditure is also ghastly. My remaining armor is down to a handful of HE and heat. The losses on both sides are equally serious. the enemy all but wiped out, and the equivalent of a platoon destroyed on my end. The horrors of modern combat aside, the mission is a tactical success, and my opponent, in a sportsmanlike gesture, decides to surrender rather than call for a ceasefire, despite having stragglers on several of the remaining objectives. I'm upset at the late game losses, especially considering how light the enemy force ultimately ended up being. However, it is always satisfying to see a plan play out more or less as one hoped. I'm Rinaldi, thank you for watching, I'll see you all next time.